I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey Dave, I'm thinking about doing another revolution. Do you want to join up? I might need some help with organising the pamphlets though.
Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. In lieu of a witty or clever intro into the show, I have made a rap beef song that I would like to play, putting you in your place, live in front of everybody here. And look, I didn't even grow up on Degrassi Junior High. I don't know how this works, but I did listen to rap back in the day when I was a young person, and I didn't know any better. I'd like to just throw that out there. When you're a pastor, you have to qualify it. You're like, yes, I listened to, I was raised in the gangsta rap era, and I fully took part. I'm just going to tell you, I was fully in, but I made a rap beef. You ready for it?
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I didn't make one.
I was ready.
I didn't know how to intro this because I figured everybody's talking about this. And but before we get to it, I should say this is Pop Culture Pastor. Welcome. My name's Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And also the indomitable, the unbreakable, the incomparable Sir Jackson is also here as well. Geek Jackson.
Joop joop.
Giving his special greeting that he is wont to do now every time he's on. Sir Jackson of the Round, a geek of the round, as we like to call them. Cody, you're still in those hardcore circles.
I am.
So why don't you explain to me what's happening like I'm a 5-year-old who doesn't know what's going on? Because I don't know what's going on. Apparently there's rap beef and everybody's talking about it.
Okay, so at first it kind of started with J. Cole, and he called out Kendrick in a rap song, a diss track, if you will. But then he's like, my bad. I apologize. We don't need this level of hatred out here. And everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? But then Drake, better known as Aubrey in my household, was like, I'm going to call out Kendrick Lamar for no real reason. And Kendrick said before the track released, because he had hyped it up, he's like, you better not come with lies or I'm going to come with the truth about you.
Oh, snap.
And evidently Aubrey was lying because he accused him of one of his kids not being his, Kendrick's, and also...
That's over the line.
That's
over the line.
He is someone that is a wife beater.
Oh.
And Kendrick's like, nope. And so now Kendrick has gone all in, not with one, not with two, but at least 3. I don't know if there'll be more released before we get to the release date of this podcast, but there's been at least 3 songs, and each one is just another nail in the coffin.
It's an ongoing story. Jackson, do you have thoughts on the rap beef? What's your history with rap beefs, Jackson?
I don't know that there is one.
Tupac and Biggie.
Well, that's my reference point. I mean, I was a 90s rap kid. You know, I dabbled. Coolio's Gangster's Paradise was the soundtrack of my youth. But
not just my youth, my life.
Absolutely. It's where I've been spending most of my life.
Oh, no. Please don't. Don't go there.
So is this what the kids would call clout chasing by Aubrey?
That's what Kendrick has hinted at, and also colonizing. He basically is calling Aubrey a white person, trying to hijack Atlanta rap, even though Aubrey's from Canada.
Full disclosure, I know what Drake looks like, but I couldn't point out Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole if you had him in a room with me. I have no idea who these people are.
I can point out Kendrick. J. Cole, I'd be like, maybe you're him.
And I think I only know Drake because people tend to make fun of him. Is that a thing?
Well, he does some peculiar things.
Yeah.
But is he like and I don't follow rap now. Is he the Eminem of his time? Because for a while I couldn't not hear about
He's
him.
pop rap.
Okay.
That I think that he's very popular amongst a wide range of people. But like, if you are someone that is all about that rap life, Drake's probably not in your top 5 currently.
So he's like McDonald's and then Kendrick's Whataburger or something like that. He's a little higher
Quality of,
Drake is LL
Fast.
Cool J, is what you're telling me.
yes,
Okay. I got you.
Yeah,
but
I can get that
but
reference.
not as tough. But he tries to project as tough.
Yeah. Oh, listen, no offense intended, LL. I don't want LL could throttle me, I'm sure.
We love you, LL, in case you're listening.
It's just that LL enjoyed. He's the only guy I can know that I can compare him to because he enjoyed some level of respect, and everyone. I mean, we all knew, like, okay, yeah, but he doesn't have the skill of like a Tupac, or even Biggie. Those guys, like, he's not. That's not what he's around. That's not what he's doing.
He's no P. Diddy, which means something completely different nowadays.
According to Kendrick, he might be.
Oh,
Cody from the hardcore
okay.
circles.
I did not expect this pod to become like we're outing rappers now.
Kendrick laid down the guidelines, K-Dot, as I refer to him as, and
Best friends.
Aubrey crossed them.
I got to say, I did not expect you to be so informational on this.
I think we should just let Cody go.
Yeah, this week on Rap-tastic with Cody Haviland. Yeah, so there's your roundup of the rap beefs that I'm not even really sure who all these people are. I've come quite a way in life because there was a time in my life where, I die for these streets. You'd told me the wrong rapper in your top 5. I'd have been like, we're enemies now. Mortal enemies.
How dare you not mention Busta Rhymes?
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking more like, Outkast.
I did like the
Wu-Tang
silence
Clan.
that followed that, by the way.
Outkast is legit, but I was thinking like going back to the 90s. Like they're towards the end of the 90s into the aughts.
But Busta was just I would have lumped him in with Tribe Called Quest just because that's what I began to know him from. So for me, that's, Busta's just always under that umbrella. But like, Tribe Called Quest is amazing. They were great. Wu-Tang Clan, I was a big fan of the East Coast. East Coast guy right here.
See, Dave and I'd be beefing because I was a big Tupac guy.
Well, Tupac was East Coast until...
I thought he was...
Well, until,
I just remember
Death Row paid
California
him.
Love.
Yeah. Well, so Death Row paid him the monies, and he got out of prison, and he went to be with Suge
And
Knight,
Snoop Dogg.
which, as it turns out, was a terrible decision.
Yes.
Like, for just being fair, that probably was not great.
Hindsight 2020.
Suge Knight, not a good guy.
But Tupac dead. Like that. That's the crazy thing is we live in a world where that happened, where a rap beef turned into like gang beef, and people died. And P. Diddy was a part of all that, and we're just shocked that P. Diddy is who he is, right? Yeah. And that was my whole thing. That was the only rap conversation in the last few months that I actually took part in, and was like, oh, we're shocked that P. Diddy's not on the up and up. Because that dude's wanted to be, like the gangsta father for a long time. So I'm sure he was doing all the things.
Potentially.
But allegedly. Yeah, we don't...
Was P. Diddy doing all the things? Let us know in the comments.
we gotta protect the podcast, allegedly.
Yes.
That is the most we will ever talk about rap ever on this podcast, right there.
I'm rooting for an all rap episode.
90s rap episode.
I'm going to talk a lot about snow.
Yes.
Informer. Saddam ain't snow me, I'm a blam.
See, that was probably lyrics to that song, though. That's the beauty of it is whatever sound effect you make, that's probably right.
It's probably right. You just don't know because he was Canadian. It's not gibberish. It's Canadian.
Maybe Aubrey should have taken some hints and styles from Snow.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'll say. Forever and ever, the best MC always will be the young MC, the mastermind of Bust a Move, which is forever the best rap song ever.
I thought you were going to say
Hammer.
No.
Escher.
No, he really made a great alien. I didn't know we were going to have an MC Escher joke.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's just who we are here at Pop Culture Pasture. All right, we got to get to this news because this involves Cody directly being wrong, and so we got to talk about that. That's important things.
I am usually half the time wrong.
So, okay, but you don't admit it all the time. Like
Cody'd have to be
for
right to
instance,
be
in the
wrong.
case of Thor: Love and Thunder, which is pretty much universally
It is
described
not
as a bad
universally.
movie.
I have seen a lot of people respond if you're going with the article or comments that are contrarian to what Mr. Hemsworth says.
Oh, so see, look, he's already trying to get on top of it. I haven't even said what the story
Absolutely.
is. And he's already trying to say Chris Hemsworth, the main star of the movie, is wrong.
He can be.
He's
just
wrong
like
about
I
his
am.
own movie that he was in.
Chris Hemsworth, in a maneuver here to prove Cody wrong. This is the whole point. He said, I got caught up in the improv and the wackiness, and I became a parody of myself. I didn't stick the landing. And like, honestly, talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, he could have just been talking about the whole movie in general. Mm-hmm. He's putting it in the form of individual because I'm sure he's got a working, or at least I've worked with this guy relationship with Taika Waititi. He doesn't want to throw anyone under the bus, but he might as well just be saying we got caught up in the improv and the wackiness and became a parody of ourselves. We didn't stick the landing, because I think that's what he's really saying, while saying it in a respectable way.
I think he's secretly just saying, I want to make more money. And so people seem to be upset about the quality art I made, and I'm going to save face and make money.
Cody's so cynical.
Literally, Andy Warhol.
It made $760 million.
Yeah. Andy Warhol was probably a parody of himself towards the end, with having all the Campbell soup cans everywhere and trying to say, oh, this means something. It meant nothing. It was Campbell soup cans and you're trying to make money. Chris,
Look.
you are trying to make money. Just say, I want to make more money. And hey, you were great in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Were they taking his career away? He's doing Furiosa right now.
Have you seen many images of him being linked to Furiosa right now? Because I haven't.
Almost
all over the
unrecognizable.
preview.
Well, I'm saying, like, before this movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, he would have been the face, even though he wasn't the main person in it. He would have been the face of the movie.
Let me give you a famous quote. You either die the hero,
The villain?
you live long enough to see yourself become the parody of yourself. That's Elvis. Elvis said that.
Yep.
See?
That tracks.
I disagree with Cody's version. I think Chris Hemsworth, I don't think anybody's crying themselves to sleep at night making $760 million. I think they're fine, but I think Hemsworth respects himself as an auteur.
If he respected himself as an auteur, he would have made some indie films by now.
I mean, okay, at the very least, can we say this is probably good for Marvel fans? Because he's clearly positioning himself to come back to the role of Thor. There's been rumblings. There's clearly some things afoot to make another Thor, maybe one more.
Well, that seems to be inevitable.
I appreciate the self-awareness because he's not dragging the entire movie down or everybody else in it. He's also not deflecting it onto other people. You know, Natalie Portman was the reason that movie tanked. But I would agree the tone was the biggest issue with that movie. I was excited to see it coming off of Ragnarok. Ragnarok was perfect for me compared to the other Thor movies. And it was that too much of a good thing. Too much
You all
cotton
asked
candy.
for it, and then you
nope.
all moan when you get it.
I will be the first to say you are correct in the I asked for it and then realized, oh, this is too much.
Yeah.
Eventually you have to rein it in a little bit.
Somebody out there discovered hey, you know what's good on mac and cheese? You put a little bit of brisket or pulled pork on it and drizzle some barbecue sauce on it. That's actually pretty good. But then, just like us, now there's a food truck every half block that is going to give you mac and cheese, and they're going to dump meat and barbecue sauce on it and totally ruin the mac and cheese. That's Thor: Love and Thunder.
No. I would probably go with Thor: Love and Thunder being LeBron James. That it's just consistently
that is
great.
Somehow a perfect example.
Just consistently great, and everyone has to complain about it.
No, that's
Yes.
not LeBron at all.
That's
LeBron is good.
LeBron's consistently great.
But when we don't bow down at the altar of LeBron, he complains about it.
Well, someone needs to because they're complaining. Team LeBron, Team Thor: Love and Thunder. You're welcome.
That somehow fits. That you just summed up everything you've ever had an opinion on. Right there. Team LeBron, Team Thor: Love and Thunder.
Team Kendrick Lamar.
Please direct all emails to codyhaviland@wrong.com. All right. So anyways, Chris Hemsworth. By the way, Robert Downey Jr. stuck up and defended him. That's a late addition to that story.
Oh!
Robert Downey Jr. said, well, I don't know what you're talking about, Chris. You were amazing as Thor.
Thank you.
And I'm like,
Thank you.
To me, if you're going to assign blame, it's Taika Waititi, not Chris Hemsworth. Hemsworth is just doing what, the director is nudging him to do.
I would put all the blame on Marvel.
How? That movie, listen.
Okay, no. So here's how. I will tell you that if you wanted a Taika movie, because that's what the fans were asking for, that's what makes money, because it's kind of in the same vein as Guardians and Deadpool. It's in that area of it's goofy, it's funny, it's not meant to be serious. Why would you give him that villain? If that's the main complaint that I keep hearing is, well, this villain is very serious. There should have been death and destruction, chaos and fear. Don't give him that. Give him a different story.
Okay.
That's on Marvel.
Okay, I can agree with that.
But Taika has been known to be able to make those tonal shifts and to be able to make you laugh and then make you cry in equal measure. So I don't blame Marvel for that choice. I blame it as Taika thought I can just put this basically same movie, Free Guy, those type of movies, just keep playing the old hits, cashing the checks, and everybody will love it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the self-awareness of saying like, hey, this maybe wasn't what we needed it to be. And that gives me a whole new level of respect for Chris. And to be able to acknowledge like, not every movie I make is going to be, Citizen Kane.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it might be a little fluky because the production happened during COVID, during the lockdowns. Judging by some of the reports and the paparazzi pics, things got a little crazy from some of the people involved with the making of the movie. Taika Waititi, women. There was some weird things going on.
I was going to say, is that women at just in large?
Well, I mean, he was involved in what do we call that kind of? Is that like a polyamorous relationship? Allegedly, I guess they never confirmed it. Is that
Potentially?
I'm a pastor. I don't know these things. This is
come
not
to
for
Cody
me to know.
for these things.
Cody, you're the rap guy.
Yeah.
I think everybody went a little crazy during that time, and it's not. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to say, hey, for Hollywood guys are under a lot of pressure. Taika Waititi making this movie was probably under a ton of pressure. You're spending a lot of money. Every day that goes by where you're not allowed to do something, you're spending more money. Mm-hmm. That's hard. By the way, in the middle of that, we were all kind of wondering, are movies still going to be a thing? Are we going to be able to go see movies? There was this unsureness. And so I think at some point when they got back to work, they're making the movies and all of that unsuredness was still there, present. There was a part of Taika Waititi where he was just like, I'm going to make this the Taika Waititiest ever. And he just went, whoo.
So do you think there was hesitancy to give us something that had grim and, had a little bit of teeth to it coming off of COVID?
No, I just think Taika Waititi's a fun guy at heart, probably. And listen, okay, I didn't know we were going to go all in on this, but here's my honest assessment of Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't think it's made badly. It's clearly quality in the effects, in the storytelling, in everything.
The song choice.
Yes, it's clearly done with heart and it's well executed.
Yeah.
And it has tons of personality. It just didn't have the personality that a lot of Thor fans wanted, because Ragnarok seems like he got the perfect balance in Ragnarok. But I don't think anybody knew that at the time. I think we just liked Ragnarok and thought, oh, Taika Waititi's good at this. And then he made Thor: Love and Thunder, and we were like, oh, what happened?
I was guilty of overhyping, and it was still an enjoyable movie, but I kept wanting to go one direction, and then he would pull me back. And, I want to feel for what's going on, and then it's joke, 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 joke. And then I'm like, okay, well, we're laughing, we're having a good time, and then it's cancer. Like, let something breathe for me. That's all I want.
Yeah, see, I don't think it was all breakneck pace. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I don't think there was anything technically unsound. I think he executed well. I mean, he's clearly good at what he does. I just thought that my problems with it were all choices. We make choices, and he made for me, it was just a lot of wrong choices. But that isn't to say that I think it was, we're not sitting here. It's not, dude, where's my car?
No, absolutely.
It's not like, oh, that was just a terribly executed movie. No, not at all.
And I don't think people are asking him to go away like M. Night Shyamalan or anything like that either.
Are we asking M. Night Shyamalan to go away?
I think he had to go away after The Happening. He had a pretty good gap there, didn't he? I mean, Cody?
He did.
So after The Happening, he also made an Avatar: The Last Airbender live action movie that dropped after Avatar, the James Cameron movie, and it was a bad cramming of the show together, and so it did not work out at all. And so he did kind of disappear for a bit, made some decent movies, and then Split brought him back out of the ashes.
Actually, I think my problem with M. Night Shyamalan was maybe different than most people's. Because I think most people were like, okay, M. Night, you've done the twist ending. We're tired of that. Actually, I wasn't. I'm totally fine. I grew up on pro wrestling. I'm just like, if you're a one-trick pony, hit me with the one trick.
Absolutely.
Keep hitting me with it. Maybe some of them work, maybe some of them don't, but I'm good for it. Let's keep hitting me with the one trick. And that's Split had it.
Yeah.
Split had the thing at the end. I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't see that coming. And he's making there's another movie he's coming out with now called Trap, that the trailer looks good.
I'm trying to figure out where's the
exactly.
twist.
Exactly. I'm watching the trailer.
Right there?
I'm like, oh, this is an interesting concept. There better be a twist at the end. Otherwise, I'm not interested.
I am glad we're letting Josh Hartnett make movies again, though.
Did we stop? Why did we stop?
He had to go away after Pearl Harbor.
He did.
He was fantastic in Oppenheimer.
Absolutely.
in a role that was kind of thankless, I think, most of the time.
Yeah.
I was like, man, look at Hartnett with the range. Look at him go. Should we talk about Giancarlo Esposito for a second?
My buddy?
Is he really? Do you know him? Can we get him on the show?
Probably not.
Oh. He was doing some work on social media this past week and kind of laid out that he's in the MCU now. He's in the MCU, but not as who you think. And I was like, who do we think?
Wolverine.
So he was campaigning to kind of be Professor X. There was this push that we wanted Giancarlo Esposito to be Professor X and maybe Denzel as Magneto. That was like the big, I think there were people pushing for that. But he says he's in, and it's quote, not who you expect, sooner rather than later, and better than you can imagine? Who do we think he is?
Quicksilver.
That's shocking, Aaron.
It is the
Aaron Taylor
multiverse,
Johnson
so-
slander. You seem to have an idea. Did you have a thought, Jackson, on
Yep.
who Giancarlo Esposito should be?
I think it's been long enough. We're bringing back Kang.
You know, I really missed Kang.
Yeah.
I just think it's time. Let's bring him back. Let's bring back Kang.
The world's waited long enough.
Could he be Bishop?
No. He's too big. Bishop's big, powerful dude.
If we're talking X-Men, we need Mr. Sinister.
Does he have to be an X-Man? I think if he's going to be an X-Man, you might as well go ahead and race switch those roles and make him Professor X.
So-
I'm kind of down with that idea, but that seems to be clearly where he's leading people away from, that he's not that. I kind of wondered, hear me out, is he Doctor Doom? He'd be a fantastic Doctor Doom. But is that too much? He's playing all these villain roles.
The not what you think is kind of what leads
Yeah.
me astray there. But real quick, so are we done with Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, all those guys now
Yes.
that Marvel has...
Well,
I don't think so. Not for the multiverse part of it.
or
I
are
think,
we having like, those side X-Men movies like... you
oh,
know?
no. Those are
Okay.
done.
Okay.
But I think you're going to see a lot of those old X-Men still
Pop
at least
up.
in the Deadpool Wolverine movie. And Feige has said some things where there's some rumblings that you'll continue to see some of them moving forward until my thoughts would be until the multiverse saga is done.
Yeah,
and then
that's
it's
my thing.
somehow,
We can-
some way, however this wraps up, Marvel will make a way for their version of the X-Men to move forward.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Giancarlo is. I don't think he has anything to do with the X-Men.
I'm just expecting Quicksilver.
Why are we so?
Because of the speed.
We
part.
had Ralph Boner. He was there. He was there in WandaVision. He
they
was
re-
Quicksilver.
Are they recasting MODOK?
Giancarlo Esposito. You know, the problem with the MODOK wasn't the character design at all. It turned out it was just the actor. Sorry, Corey Stoll. Turns out we just needed a more serious actor to have his face put on a weird CGI creation with stumpy arms and legs.
Yep.
Okay, that's the news. It's time for us to do the thing that we were assembled to do, and that is review a movie. We haven't done that in a while, so we're going to take a break. We'll come right back. We were just talking about Paul Giamatti. We weren't recording it. And how much we love Paul Giamatti and how much Paul Giamatti would frankly love us, I think.
Yes.
Because he likes hamburgers and we like hamburgers. Yes. That's how we think.
And that's really all you need.
Yeah. And I was just telling the guys how I'd watched The Holdovers with my oldest daughter. That's a very good movie. If you haven't seen The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti, he's great in everything, but he's especially good in this. And it turns out to be this, kind of very deep feeling movie. And I won't ruin it for you, but you should probably watch it. It's good. Very good. Yeah. What do you think? Should we talk about what we're here to talk about?
Yes.
So we hadn't. Cody didn't know what to say. I was like, well, we're doing a podcast, and generally on podcasts we talk. And I was like, what do you think? And he's just looking at me like, I don't know.
I'm thinking we need to get to the movie I have prepped for.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't moving fast enough for you. I was just doing this thing where we were having a conversation. That's what people like to listen to, conversation.
Who knew?
Were you aware of that? Cody's like, I am a robot, and we need to move on to what I've prepared for. Just thought we were having a lovely conversation. Glad I'm not a part of this, and this isn't relational for you at all.
It happens.
Okay. So we were remarking, we were like, man, we haven't seen a movie. I hadn't been to the theater in a while.
It had been so long, I forgot to tell them that I had a backstage pass because they forgot to ask me.
I almost forgot my phone number for the backstage pass. I had a half off coupon. That was fantastic. I didn't even know I had it.
Fancy.
Yeah. I was like, oh, half off? That's a lot of money when you're, spending $100 at the movie theater because, how far does $100 go at the movie theater anymore? Not very far.
Not a ticket and a small jujubes.
I thought you were going to say Jupe Jupe again. I was like, all right,
Hey.
everyone gets the Guardians 3 thing.
Yeah, I can't lay it on too thick.
So we thought, hey, let's let the listeners vote on which movie we'll go see because, frankly, I kind of wanted to see both of them. Mm-hmm. But the listeners, as it turns out, pointed us towards The Fall Guy. Let me just tell you a little bit about The Fall Guy here. Here is the 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. And here is the synopsis. After leaving the business 1 year earlier, battle-scarred stuntman Colt Seavers springs back into action when the star of a big studio movie suddenly disappears. As the mystery surrounding the missing actor deepens, Colt soon finds himself ensnared in a sinister plot that pushes him to the edge of a fall more dangerous than any stunt. Directed by David Leitch, starring Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Hannah Waddingham, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Winston Duke. Lots of people. Is Adam Dunn in this movie?
Evidently.
Former MLB baseball player Adam Dunn? He's in the cast list. That's kind of wild. Yeah. Okay, so broad take on the movie is this. It is a action sort of adventure / rom-com
/ mystery.
Yeah, it's kind of got a lot of things going on. Totally summer popcorn flick. Like, it's not trying to be anything more than that, I don't think. And that's fine because this movie kind of knows itself. And what you end up getting from me is kind of 2 hours well spent in the theater. It was fun. You don't take it too seriously. And it's got all the beats. It's got all the things you would expect in a summer movie. You laugh a little bit. It has enough deep moments where you're like, oh, okay, look. And it's got some good actors. What'd you guys think overall?
It was very meta at times.
Yeah.
And I was all about that. There was some cool little Easter egg moments that I'm like, ooh, this is fun. And then I really did enjoy the humor that was in this movie. They did a good job with casting, even down to, so there's a moment that they're talking about Memento, and then they go to Aaron Taylor Johnson's room, and he has like all the stick-it notes all over, and that was perfect. And then one of them said, is it Jason Momoa or Jason Momoa? And I'm like, I've been wondering that as well.
Jackson, how was your overall experience in the movie theater for The Fall Guy?
Well, I'm going to quote Stefan from Saturday Night Live and say, this movie had everything.
Oh, wow. All right. Yeah.
You've touched on it already, but we had action, we had heart, we had comedy. It's whatever you needed it to be. I feel like it's a movie that served every purpose other than maybe horror. And, the preview, the first one that I remember seeing, I thought, okay, this is a romantic comedy. And then the second one is pure action. And I enjoyed myself. A popcorn movie is a perfect description of it. It was a good time. I was never bored. I was engaged. The music choices were top notch the entire way through. It felt like it always fit what we were watching, and it was never overdone.
Yeah.
And to really just hit it from minute 1 to, I think it was 2 hours, so minute 120, that's rare with movies these days.
Yeah. So, just in a very broad sense, we were introduced to Ryan Gosling's Colt Seavers. He's a stunt guy. He's apparently one of the best stunt guys. He has an accident while he's in the middle of this just wonderful relationship with Emily Blunt's character, who is an aspiring director. He gets hurt, though, in this accident. He lays low for a while. Then he's brought back by a producer to save his former girlfriend's movie, who he let go away after he hurt himself. Little whole crisis of confidence subplot thing going on here. And it becomes this kind of mystery thriller type action comedy / romantic comedy all at once, as Colt Seavers comes back and tries to find a missing star who he had been the body double for, who he had been the stunt double for, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. And all of this takes place on a bombastic, wild sci-fi movie, the Metal Storm, that's being filmed and is kind of, we'll get into this later, but there's a lot of meta stuff going on. And yeah, I just thought it was really, really fun. So why don't we just drop right into what's good? And Jackson, we'll let you go first. What's your first what's good about this movie?
Well, I already hit on the music. There's I don't know how spoilery we'll want to be. I don't think it's anything that means anything, but there's definitely a musical cue that I bought into and then got completely faked out. It was around the karaoke scene.
Oh, I don't know. What are you talking about?
Well, you can go ahead and just
I don't
elaborate.
think this is, honestly, I don't think this is the kind of movie where spoilers will ruin anyone's enjoyment of it. This isn't the kind of movie where you're trying to save some surprise. Like
That's
there's
fair
not
enough.
a
Better
twist.
to ask permission than ask forgiveness on this type of thing.
we're going to talk spoilers.
Turn it off if you haven't watched.
When Emily Blunt's singing Against All Odds by Phil Collins.
Which is a
and
fantastic song.
best Phil Collins song there is. And Ryan's racing back to make it to the karaoke bar. And he comes in, and for all we know, she's still there singing. And I'm thinking he's going to catch her. She's going to sing this song. They may even have their little, I can't believe you stood me up thing or whatever. And then he shows up, and she's long gone.
Yeah,
it hit me.
The time shift.
I completely bought into it.
I didn't expect them to encounter each other at that, just because while she was singing it, her eyes are closed and he's like on the back of the truck. And so like while that's happening, there's several minutes of action. They're several blocks away at least.
See, Cody's the analytical one. I'm all emotion here, and I'm like, come on, he's going to make it. Their love is going to triumph.
Yeah.
But I'm going to just, to not take from other people, the music is top-notch the entire way through.
I'm going to go ahead and go next because I'm going to piggyback.
Ouch!
Okay. It just piggybacks right off of his.
I was all
that
about
all right?
the Phil Collins, but here you go.
What would you like to say about Phil Collins, Cody?
Doesn't get enough credit.
No, of course not. Cody, you may continue. Please tell us how Phil Collins is one of the most underrated music artists of the 80s.
And the 90s.
And the 90s.
That Tarzan soundtrack slaps. Criminally underrated.
Yeah. Why do we...
/ I do get confused when it's Genesis or Phil Collins sometimes.
Is there a difference? Sting and the Police?
Is this pre-Susudio or post-Susudio? Why is Phil Collins criminally underrated? Why do we not give Phil his due?
I think it's because he's balding.
I thought so too.
Agreed.
So wrong. It might help if he can. He had that mullet for a while. That's not even a mullet because he doesn't have the hair on top. It's like a skullet.
Skullet.
Yeah. That didn't help either for a while, I don't think. But it distracted us from Phil Collins being the man. But yeah, so you were describing that scene with the karaoke, which I in my head was calling the trash truck scene. Mm-hmm. There's this whole action sequence. And for my first what's good, I'm just going to say the action. This whole movie is a love letter to the stunt industry. And as such, you would expect that all the stunts need to be top tier. And I think it is. Like every action sequence, every set piece that has action involved in it, which there are a lot, is so over the top and amazing. And visually engaging. Like in every action sequence, there was something about it, whether they're, careening sideways in the middle of a garbage bin, fighting as they go along, whether it's a boat chase sequence. All of the action set pieces were amazing. If Top Hat is the perfect spotlight for Fred Astaire in dance, then this movie might be the perfect vehicle for the stunt industry. As well it should be, because it's about these stunt people. And like Ryan Gosling has said in interviews for this, that this is actually just a very covert opportunity, or this is a very covert mission to try and get the Oscars to recognize stunt people. And I hope they do, because
I wasn't aware that they didn't.
I wasn't either.
I guess it's maybe the Saturn Awards that are the stuntmen Oscars, but I thought they had something of best stunts. Maybe that's MTV Movie Awards.
Well, it seems weird that they don't, because this is a part of the reason we love movies. They're a part of the magic of the movies.
We have writing, directing, set.
Or maybe it's because the Oscars typically aren't too thrilled with action movies as a whole anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not considered serious cinema.
Well, this movie, I thought the action was incredible, and it should be, because there was clearly a love for this stunt industry. It's made, the director is literally a former stunt man.
I was going to say, he mentions it at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and so I thought the action was incredible and incredibly engaging and visually thrilling. Yeah, Cody, what's good?
And I'll piggyback on that and say, if you watch them at the red carpet, they did a really cool stunt where Ryan Gosling's put with all the stunt guys that were him, and then they get pulled through the sign that they're posed in front of, and like there's an explosion, and Ryan Gosling wasn't expecting it. It was great.
I'm going to have to look that up on YouTube.
You will. What's great is the cast. Because, yes, the action's great, and you can have a great action movie and not have great acting, but it really helps if there is decent to great acting, and you throw in Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, and you're like, okay, these two can carry a movie. I know some people on this podcast may not be a fan of ATJ, as the kids call him, but he does good. And Hannah Waddingham is phenomenal, as usual. And she plays off smug producer, elitist type very well that tries to pretend to be nice to get what she wants. So, yeah. And Winston Duke. Just put Winston Duke in everything, people.
Is he just fantastic? He is so good as the sidekick here.
Yes, like on Google, they don't even have his character listed.
What?
Like, it's just him, and I'm like, so I like to think he was just Winston Duke.
He was just
this.
playing himself. Well, Winston, side note, has been campaigning James Gunn to be the Bruce Wayne of James Gunn's new DC universe. And frankly, I'm here for it. I'm like, you give Winston Duke whatever he wants to do, because he's fantastic.
Jackson already has someone he wants in that role. So.
Oh, who's that?
Are you familiar with Reacher?
Okay, Alan Ritchson?
Yeah, put him in there.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that either. I like him. I dig him too. There's lots of acting. Anybody could be Batman. It's not that hard.
Cody
Ouch.
could be Batman.
Tell that to George Clooney.
I don't know why we got to go with the George Clooney slander every time we bring up Batman.
It's
I don't
Robert
think he was that
Pattinson.
bad. He wasn't
the
that
new
bad.
Slander.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, George Clooney didn't make it work. And so it can't just be a cakewalk.
I mean, it couldn't have been the bat nipples.
Well, wait.
It had to be George Clooney's fault.
That goes back to the good Batman, good Bruce Wayne, because apparently that's a thing.
They're different characters. So you can do one good and the other not so good, but it can't be bad.
I thought about making a joke about how the worst one was Val Kilmer, but I didn't want to make Cody mad.
Cody leaped
I
across
stormed off the set.
Cody's last episode.
Okay, Jackson. Cody brings up the cast. What is your next good thing? What's good?
Oh, that's good. He was knocking me for the Aaron Taylor Johnson business, by the way.
You're the not fan of Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I think I still have the stink from Godzilla 2014 with him of there's no emotion behind those eyes. But anyhow.
He said he's dead inside.
He's dead inside. I think, and I could be wrong, and he might burn me for this, but Ryan Gosling's reached that stage with me of, if he's in it, I'm going. No questions asked, no previews needed. I trust him. He's going to make it. I'm going to enjoy it until I don't.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling, and I had a question for later that we can ask. That's the final question. But Ryan Gosling has really kind of attained this position in our Hollywood culture now where he might be one of the most bankable stars, which is really weird because I don't think any of us saw the comedic part of this either. Now he's got these two movies back to back with Barbie and this movie. I mean, we saw him. I think you saw a little bit of it in what was the one he did with Russell Crowe?
Remember the Titans.
The Nice Guys.
Not Remember the Titans. It was The Nice Guys. Thanks, Cody.
Well, one of us on this podcast hasn't seen it, so no wonder he said Remember the Titans.
You haven't seen The Nice Guys?
No.
Oh, it's really good.
But
It's a movie that's made for Cody. and
I
he
have
hasn't
seen
it.
Remember the Titans, and he had comedic moments.
He was also like 16. I don't know how old he is, but in that movie, I know we watched that. We recently rewatched that as a family, and my oldest daughter, my 16-year-old, was like, "That's Ryan Gosling." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's how he was to us. That's how we remember him."
Couldn't cover that guy.
Terrible football player, but as it turns out, he's going to be a pretty good actor. And I think we're living in this weird time where Ryan Gosling's the it guy.
The one concern I have is he's going to get pigeonholed and he's only going to do the kind of oafish roles. So that's my worry, is similar to what we were talking about with Love and Thunder, is this just going to be his lot in life? Similar to the other Ryan Reynolds of, you cast him when you want this kind of dim bulb with a heart of gold character.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a fair concern. And I heard another reviewer say, for whatever reason, this movie works because of Ryan Gosling. Because he was saying his question was, if you put Ryan Reynolds in this movie, is it as good? And
No.
the reviewer was saying, no, it's not. So I think it's fair to say that Ryan Gosling, there's something about Ryan Gosling, and it might be subtle, that he's got this subtle thing going on where he's just a more, because nobody hates Ryan Reynolds. We like Ryan Reynolds, but he is a little bit more jokey. It's a little harder to take seriously with Ryan Reynolds, whereas Gosling does bring this certain something to the role where, like, oh, I'm going to take this at least on some level seriously.
Well, it's his Kitnergy, Dave.
It's because maybe he's been in, movies like The Notebook, or, we've seen him in more serious things, I think, and that helps. We know he's capable of that. Whereas Ryan Reynolds, not that we don't appreciate what Ryan Reynolds does, but he's always been kind of Ryan Reynolds-y.
I think he's more mean-spirited about
Yes.
it, where there's an edge to his
that's
humor
true.
and his where
Tends to be dark humor as well.
Ryan Gosling, it's more like, he's a lovable, oaf. He's, the guy you always want around, where Ryan is just, Reynolds is cutting everyone around him to pieces. And when it works, it works. Big Ryan Reynolds fan. Don't want anybody thinking different. But I think there's a sweetness to Gosling that Reynolds couldn't.
Yeah, so this piggybacks, like, this will be a good segue into my what's good, because I was going to talk about the chemistry of the two leads, Gosling and Emily Blunt. And yeah, if Ryan Reynolds has love interests, that he's paired up with, but it's always this like, oh, it's your pleasure to get to like me. Right? It's always like, go, good for you that you are involved with me. And it's all played, of course, that's not who he is in real life, but he's just good at having that smarm kind of factor to him. Whereas with Gosling, he plays this, in this movie, this kind of lovelorn guy, hopeless romantic type person. And it's believable. And I don't think every actor is capable of pulling that off, where every actor can play that. Because we see that in a lot of these, rom-comish type movies. But with him, there's just this believability to it that's good. And I thought the chemistry between these two actors was great. Him and Emily Blunt is wonderful. There's this scene where they do the split scene where there's a whole meta thing going on with a movie inside of a movie. Of course, the movie they're making in Metal Storm, but then like this movie that's constantly she's directing in her head, like, oh, if I was doing this love scene or this long lost love scene and they're on the phone and they're split screen and they're mimicking each other's movements. And so there's this scene in the movie that's really good. And I'm not sure if it works, if it's other actors. I think a part of the success of them pulling it off in this movie is because Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt are so good and they're good together. My question would be this is, I was thinking about this as we were preparing. Is it good because they're really good actors, or do you have to like each other for good chemistry? Can you create good chemistry on film if you don't like each other but are just really good at acting? Because I'm not sure about that. I don't know what the answer is. What do you guys think?
I feel there's been movies where the two leads hated each other, but they played off each other perfectly on screen. One example would be Mad Max Fury Road. Okay. Charlize and Tom did not get along whatsoever, but together on screen, they had this dynamic that just popped. Even though it might not have been a romantic dynamic, it was, we're going to survive the barren wasteland together.
Fury Road.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Four Christmases with Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon, and they apparently hated each other. But I thought it was great. I loved how, and I thought their chemistry was good on screen. So yeah, I think I've seen examples where maybe their real life chemistry was not good, but maybe you're a good enough actor to pull it off. But I think when we're talking about someone the caliber, like, no offense to Vince Vaughn, but when we're talking about someone like Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, you're like, okay, these are obviously very, very, very good actors as well. And I just didn't know, can they fake that and make it believable?
I think something should be said for Gosling, though, because I think back to Crazy Stupid Love with Emma Stone.
That's such a great movie, by the way.
Great chemistry there. Barbie, you've got great chemistry with Margot Robbie. This movie, you've got it with Emily Blunt. Like, I at least know he can pull off his side. I didn't go inside to see if he liked all those co-stars, but he's somebody that he can take you on that ride.
It's a question I almost don't want the answer to, because
that'll undo your feeling.
Yeah, what I think is, Ryan Gosling, so in my head, I'm like, no, you can't fake that. These are just eminently likable people, and Ryan Gosling is just super likable. And if I found out different, that maybe he wasn't likable, it would just crush all these movies that I kind of like him in.
But I liked how this movie, the rom-com elements, they felt more honest and more real of, he did drop off the map. He did hurt her. They were in a spot with their relationship, but it wasn't a lot of those old conventions where he had to spend the entire movie winning her back. They go right into an honest conversation, and pretty early into the movie, she's already like, I'm willing to give you another chance. I accept your apology. Like, let's see what happens. And I appreciated that, because sometimes those rom-com beats that you have to hit can be a little insulting to the intelligence.
Okay. Yeah. What else is good?
The Taylor Swift music is good.
There was a nice little
All Too Well.
Nice little segment. That was an enjoyable segment with Taylor Swift's music where he's listening to her song in the truck. He's crying.
Yes. It was perfect too. Because, I mean, so that song is about Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes. So this is the one where, like, if you see some Swiftie wearing a shirt that says, "Where's the scarf, Jake?" It's this song in this music video that, like, all that's attached to. But this song has emotional beats. And so if you know the song and then you see, like, him get in the truck and it just comes on, you're like, oh, man, this works really well. And then Emily Blunt walking up to him, like, are you blaring Taylor Swift right now and crying?
It's a great scene.
Yes. So that moment in this movie had quite a few of those moments where it's like, literally, you could have played chunks of this particular moment in the trailer, and I might have gone in, and for a lot of movies, it would have just been that moment, but there were so many of those moments, it was like, oh, this was nonstop good.
Yeah, I think the people that made this movie clearly just love movies, and you can feel that in kind of all their choices. So from a technical standpoint, you get it through the stunt stuff and the making of movies, and they just have a joy and love for this. But in that they like the atmosphere and the movie making business altogether, there's all these like nudge, nudge, wink, wink little references to other Hollywood movies. They're constantly, Gosling's character and Winston Duke are constantly quoting lines from movies, just maybe like as we do, just when we're out and about with friends who also love movies. And so you're kind of in on this movie loving of movie culture that is constantly being played on in the movie. There's just a ton of references and Hollywood things going on. And so it's very enjoyable from kind of like a movie nerd standpoint.
I'm a little disappointed that Cody didn't bring up the tomahawk scene.
Almost did. I'm shocked that no one's mentioned the dog yet.
The dog's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
The French dog, the dog that's constantly has a specific French command where he bites the nether regions of the whoever you want him to, I guess. Always wanted those dogs. I wanted one of those dogs, I guess.
He can engage his core too.
Yes. And he was very concerned about safety.
It's got several things that in other movies, when it's not done as well, you would consider tropey. But in this movie, you get it because, again, there's a lot of these nudge, nudge, wink, wink Hollywood things going on. There's a scene where Aaron Taylor Johnson's not one of my most favorite parts of this movie. I'll probably be a little bit more on with Jackson on that. However, the soliloquy scene where he has the big speech where he's channeling Matthew McConaughey is where, and they don't tell you. You just have to figure it out. I'm rolling in the theater when I figure out that, like, oh, this is Matthew McConaughey. And it's hilarious. And it's the best. It's the best part of Aaron Taylor Johnson in the whole movie because I feel like he's not really given a whole lot to do.
I don't even remember what he says at one point because he uses the Matthew McConaughey whiskey or Lincoln line. It was the Lincoln car line because Matthew has so many commercials now. But he's like, I loved this before I owned one of these. And so I'm like, oh my goodness.
You get the feeling that they were just playing around on set and they just went with that cut because it's not referenced in any way. You either figure it out and get it or you don't. And you're like, why was he talking like that? It's so good. So good.
Well, and I think with this movie, there would have been a big difference between silly and amusing, where if it'd gone too far one way, then it's just silly. But, you have the quotes where they don't call it out. The Rocky quote, they do call it out at the end, but I'm sitting there telling Cody, I'm like, that's from Rocky.
I knew it was from Rocky.
There's some genuinely funny things here too. I think that's another good part about this movie is the comedy itself is great. The scene where Aaron Taylor Johnson's just being overall dumb and he says, carbs! Your brain needs glucose. That scene had me rolling in the theater. There's just several things in the movie that are just played for laughs that I'm here for. It was so fun. It was just a fun movie.
It was.
Anything else? What's good that we failed to mention? Because I feel like we've gone over a lot here.
Yeah, I don't want to do overkill, so.
Yeah. So what's whack? What's not so good? Is there anything? I already kind of mentioned Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm with you, Jackson. I'm not sure whether he's my favorite actor. I would hate him as Bond. Like, I know there was talk about him being Bond, and I'm just like, ugh, no,
That's
thank you.
confirmed, isn't it?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Is he Bond for sure?
I think it's alleged still.
I didn't know who Daniel Craig was, so I'll give him one movie.
I'm not super, invested in Bond anyways, but I will just say he's not my favorite actor, although he's made me give him a chance on the McConaughey scene alone.
So you're going to Kraven the Hunter?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. So apparently not much of a chance.
Well, that's not totally on him, though. That's choices Sony's
Sony.
making that I'm not down with. But
It's Morbin time.
and I don't know why anybody would go see any of those movies now. I mean, now, Madam, like, what more proof do you need that Sony's Marvel movies are not worth going to see?
Her web connects us all, Dave.
Oh, gosh.
Something spiders before she died.
If I'm being honest, I think this movie, it could have been about 15 minutes shorter. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like I was in the theater a long time, but there was kind of like a double ending where you feel like the movie was about to end, and we're like, oh, okay, this movie's going to be kind of compact. But then it just sets up the whole end piece. But then when you see the end piece, you're like, well, I didn't want to miss that. There was some cool stunts in there. It was
Where do you cut from?
Yeah, I know. That's my point. But then I'm going back into the rest of the movie and like, well, could I have cut more? I don't know, because I don't think you can, because there's already some lean things. Like, okay, for instance, one of my very small beefs with the movie is I think we needed more about where Ryan Gosling was at, his character was at in his low time. We just kind of fast forward by that, and then we try to catch up later. But we never really get an explanation for what his problem was, why he disconnected himself from his girlfriend at the time, who is Emily Blunt's character, why their relationship ended because he had an accident. You would think that was when you needed people the most. But I think we get one sentence on it, basically.
Well, while he's driving the boat,
yeah.
he said, I couldn't give you the thumbs up. And
Yeah. It's played for laughs, but there's a little bit of heart in it, but it's basically about 10 seconds of dialogue. Mm-hmm. And I think you could have used more there, but at the same time, I'm like, I understand. I don't know.
I wouldn't have wanted to go through that ride in the traditional sense, though. That's why I appreciated it felt more genuine, more realistic to real life, and not.
So it's just kind of half a beef.
I really didn't care for the lady that had the phone that wanted to get a producing credit. Like, that was kind of just like a meh, and like she didn't bring anything to the table.
Okay.
She set up an action scene. I don't know that she was a main.
Well, at the end
character
of
in
the
the
movie, she's like, "Get me Jason Momoa."
I mean, she's probably like somewhere right now listening to this podcast. And this was her big role. This is her breakout role. She's like, I'm somebody. I'm in a movie. None of us remember who she actually is because we don't know who she is. And then she hears you dissing on her performance, and she's like, I'm ruined. This is it for me. I'm done.
If pop culture pastor's
Cody's just
rap
crushing
consultant
dreams.
doesn't like me.
Crushing dreams. I think that speaks to there's not a lot going wrong with this
Yes,
movie.
I'm like, if I have to find something, I'm like, that whole dialogue was kind of wonky, and like, why are we walking with her to the dog park?
Well,
She was his assistant. Wasn't she?
They paid for the dogs for the entire day. And so they just needed let's film another scene with the dogs.
And he had to get the phone that had the video to see. She was an integral part. I've just made
I said, like, she just could have gave him the phone.
See, she turned it off when you started talking and then turned it back on when I started talking.
Yeah.
All good.
I mean, do we have any other complaints? Because if that's it, I mean, it kind of tells you what we're thinking about this movie.
I was going to nitpick a little bit, and I think you talked me out of it, of maybe ratcheting the action up maybe one more peg, but then it's that worry again of, does this become silly and not amusing?
Oh, man.
Like when he spits the gasoline all over the guy that's about to light him on fire, I'm like, he immediately gets put out. He's not hurt in any way. I'm like, did I want him to be completely immolated and, fall off into the water or whatever? Did I want more? But then would that have been silly and slapsticky?
Now that you say that, it was something I noticed during the movie as I was watching it that I failed to put in my notes, but you saying that reminds me. Nobody gets like very permanent damage from this. We don't see anybody die in this movie, do we?
Feel it.
But there's literally people shooting at people in this movie, and I don't think we see anybody actually die.
Does
other than
ATJ die at the end?
Does he? I don't think so.
Because he wanders off and he's like, I'm going to call my agent, and then boom.
Oh, he gets exploded, and it's on a post-credit scene, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's played for laughs. How do we know?
That's my point. Like, he could be not amongst us anymore.
But I feel you feel the PG-13. And I was fine with it. I don't think it stole anything from me, but you feel it.
Like, you get the same bad guys over and over trying to get him, and I'm like, someone's not going to be moving well after this. So, yeah, that's a legitimate complaint. I needed either some people to be hobbling, or I needed more severe, like,
I didn't need it.
action.
I think it's a valid complaint for sure, but I don't know that I personally needed it.
I needed it.
But I did note it. I did notice exactly what you're talking about, that nobody seems to suffer any permanent stakes in this. Even the bad guys. They all seem to make it through just fine.
Except for ATJ.
I don't think he died. I think it was just that's played for laughs at the end.
And even if he did, we're okay with it.
All right. Are there any deeper themes in this movie?
Love.
Love, yeah. The power of love.
Loss of confidence in yourself.
I was going to say there's some deep mental health stuff there. The thumbs down dialogue or soliloquy that stuntmen can only do the thumbs up and that they have to toughen it out. But I wasn't at a place that I could do that. And it's like, hey, mentals, they're important. And also, it's not the time to abandon someone. You need to check in on your friends that are trying to hide out and hit rock bottom by themselves.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying with that whole his reasoning. I think I wanted more of why it was because he explains it, and you're thinking, oh, it was a mental health thing aspect to his disappearance out of people's lives. And we never really get into it. And it's like, look, it's not the movie for it, but I just kind of wanted that in just a deeper sort of way, but it probably doesn't belong in the movie.
Well, and
in
Ryan's
a popcorn
great
flick.
at vulnerability too, because I imagine the stunt performer is maybe a very macho field, because you've got to do these things, and he got to that point where that might have been the first mistake he had ever made, and then it was like, am I not not who I thought I was, and that crisis of confidence. I really appreciated that.
They're the gladiators of the Hollywood atmosphere, right? Mm-hmm. These are the toughest of the tough. And
/ he owes Emily Blunt a new camera.
Oh yeah, because he destroys it in that scene. All those actions. That action scene was great. Actual record set in the filming of that. The 8 rolls of the car was apparently a record.
I do need that Miami Vice jacket.
That
I
was
just point
legit.
that out of like, I will buy that if I can find it.
Who's the winner of this movie, Jackson?
I mean, he's on a streak right now, so I'll just go ahead and say Ryan Gosling. You know, he continues to put out movies that not only is he good in, but they are well received.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you get that this is a great movie for this person, but then it gets swept under the rug by Rotten Tomatoes or critics as a whole, and it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case with this one.
It's the most obvious answer, but it can't be wrong. I mean, he's just really good. He's really good. And he's just becoming, a big star. Cody?
The correct answer is Lee Majors. Because everyone's like, oh, why are you here, Lee? And then, oh, there was a series called this.
Yeah, Lee Majors, the original star of the Fall Guy television series, late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there. And I could be a total Gen X kid and say, well, that show was great, and it deserved this movie reboot of sorts to bring it back into everyone's public consciousness because it deserved it. It was awesome. Let's be fair. It wasn't that awesome. This movie's way better than it deserves to be.
So my dad asked me, because I told him that we were going to watch this movie and review it, and he's like, is it based on the show? And I'm like, there was a show?
Yes, there was.
And he's like, yeah, it had Lee Majors in it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
was
Lee Majors, winner.
Yeah. Lee Majors was big.
Was
a big
he the
deal.
$6 million man?
I believe so,
Yes.
Because I heard that sound
Uh-huh.
effect, and then I was like, when Cody was like, oh yeah, he was in the Fall Guy, I'm like, so was the Fall Guy the $6 million man?
Nope.
And
No, totally different.
yeah, confusing
It's
myself.
but the $6 million sound effect, the $6 million man sound effect you heard was just another one of those nudge, nudge, wink, wink moments that they throw in there, and they say, well, if you know, you know.
Yeah. Lee Majors. He's still alive. B, people are now like, oh, he was in a series called this.
Yeah. For me, the winner of the movie are people who love to see movies in the movie theater. This movie is made with love. And I'll say that because I think where maybe Marvel has gone wrong in some of these comic book flicks, some of these bigger tentpole type things from the studios, I think where they've gone wrong, they're making these movies, they're pouring tons of money into them, and then like you're just earning a paycheck. It seems like some of the actors, some
charm.
directors, script writers, it's okay. They're doing their job. But every facet of this movie feels like people who aren't just doing a job. Like this movie's made with love. They're passionate. And it spills out onto the screen. You have a good time. It's so much fun. They do have all the nudge, nudge, wink, wink moments because it's made by people who love movies. And they probably, if I'm having to guess, I'm guessing all these people feel like they are blessed to be a part of the movie making industry because it all spills off the screen. And I think that's a win for people who love seeing movies in the theater because I think that we're kind of still in this post-COVID time where we're wondering, well, is the movie theater thing going to work long term? Especially now that the comic book movies are kind of winding down a little bit, and as far as their money drawing ability, we're wondering what's going to work long term. And then a movie like this, I think that this movie will have strong word of mouth, even though as we record this, they weren't predicting a huge first weekend for it. But I think this movie will have strong word of mouth. I think it's going to make over $300 million. I think it's going to spawn sequels. And I'm here for it because I want more of this story. I want Winston Duke. I want the whole team. I want Ryan Gosling. I want Emily Blunt. I want to have more in the Fall Guy universe. I want more of this.
I don't think there will be a sequel.
Okay. I'm just saying. By the time this podcast comes out, I'm expecting it to already be greenlit.
I'm on board with the positivity, but I agree. Not everything needs a sequel. And
I'm just saying.
Too many sequels cheapens the original, my horror movie picks notwithstanding.
Okay, but this is where I go back to this was based on a TV show, a serial, where he got in many adventures. And so him putting on the hat at the end of the movie, it says Fall Guy Stunts, where he's got his own thing, his own brand. I'm just like, yes, I need more stories with the Fall Guy. And I'm here for it. I do want that serial type of adventures that kind of go on cereal, as in Serial, not breakfast cereal, although that is also welcome.
Yes.
So, if we're not familiar with the show, I'm assuming you are, to tell us what the show was about.
I mean, it's about a stunt guy who solved crimes.
Okay.
Like,
Well, I mean, that's simple enough.
It's so
but
70s and 80s.
Yeah. Well, everyone's solving murders and crimes. I mean, authors like Jessica Fletcher and private investigators like Tom Selleck, a.k.a. Magnum, Thomas Magnum.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't need to be super loyal to it. I'm bought in, especially if you get the same people back. I had fun. I'm ready for more fun. Who's the loser of the movie, if you got one? Jackson needs to think about it. Because Cody already have one?
I do have one.
Go ahead,
And
Cody.
I'm not going to say Stephanie Sue after
Yeah, you've damaged that poor young actress enough.
the slander made earlier. I'll go with Winston Duke. He just doesn't get enough screen time. Mm-hmm. Like, he actually is really good, and he's good in everything he does. But no, there wasn't enough screen time for Winston. More Winston Duke.
Yep. Jackson?
I was going to push back of the if you'd gotten more screen time, would it have been as memorable? But I'm going to say...
Don't say her.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
How dare you?
I mean,
Can we pile on ATJ anymore?
legitimately, he's asked the least of here.
He is.
He's playing a dumb guy. Yeah, it's a super tropey thing. But tell me reasons. You're not a fan of Aaron Taylor Johnson as an actor.
He was phenomenal in Bullet Train.
Okay, listen. David Leitch was almost my winner of the movie, the director, because I thought I enjoyed this movie so much. I haven't seen Bullet Train.
Oh, Bullet Train's good.
And knowing that he did that movie, I'm going to go back and watch it now because of this movie.
I think jokes aside, I'll take a small diversion and go a little bit. I wonder if the success of this movie puts us back in that let's reboot everything, all these old shows again, and you run back into that and it was successful, but 21 Jump Street, Baywatch, all
Okay,
these.
but 21 Jump Street was good.
No, I agree with you, but then it's like Chips, like
No, not good.
yeah, we've
Not
got
good.
to go on a spree of rebooting these shows because this movie performed well. This movie was well received.
Murder, She Wrote's happening.
So once again, though, I think we see when it's done right what the template is. Have an original take. Well, Cobra Kai is good, or was good, before they probably overplayed their hand a little bit. The first season of Cobra Kai was great because it's original in that it's based on this universe created in movies made a while ago, but then it's kind of played for laughs. It doesn't take itself so seriously. And I think this movie's the same. Like, listen, the Fall Guy TV series was played super straight up. Like, it was serious, as most things were back then. We're solving crimes. Mm-hmm. What? I'm a stunt guy that solves crimes. Got a problem with that? No.
What is funny about that?
Whereas this is all played kind of tongue in cheek. They're having some fun. They're like we've said, there's nudge, nudge, wink, wink moments here. And they're breaking they're even like kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit. There's a lot of meta stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's just fun. And yeah, it is a concern though, because we know studios, and studios have a tendency to be dumb. And they're going to well, this worked. Well, I think we're ready for the Love Boat.
Yeah, they'll set it aside of it worked because it was a reboot remake, not it was who was in it or the passion behind it.
Right. Like my worst nightmare from this movie is Universal Studios or Warner Brothers greenlights Simon and Simon remake. Oh, this is going to suck. Strap me in, right?
It's time for the Different Strokes movie.
It's put downtown to the beat of just one. Anyways. Okay. Yeah. The loser of the movie for me, this was hard for me because I feel like on most levels, even some of the side actresses who Cody didn't like, I feel like this is a win for everybody. But if I have to pick one, I'm probably going to go with Winston Duke because I think Winston's a star. I think he's up there on the Ryan Gosling level. He just hasn't been given those vehicles yet. But maybe this is the door. Maybe this is the key where people start noticing that because he's fantastic in this. And you just want more Winston.
Yep.
But mostly, I want more Winston and Gosling together. I think they were great together. And I need more of that friendship.
Now, if there was a sequel, I would like it to kind of be more buddy cop, but buddy stuntman.
Yeah.
Solving crime.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of the 80s templates of the buddy movies.
So is
buddy
Emily
cops.
Blunt the odd person out in a sequel? Because does she really serve a purpose?
/ can you get Emily Blunt again?
She's not a main star. You bring her back as for a couple scenes where she's taking care of kids or something, and
she
her
talking
career.
to Ryan on the phone?
She's off making a movie, but it's clear they've lived happily ever after, right? So they've got a family, but she's also doing her work still. She's got her movie career, which is flourishing. But the story goes a different direction. I think that's how you handle it. Because the real thing would be they wouldn't pay her for it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want to pay all the actors to come back double the price, which is what they're going to have to do.
So she's Bonnie Bedelia in later Die Hard.
What a pull! He pulled Bonnie Bedelia. Oh my goodness!
Yes, because Die Hard could not afford her.
Bonnie Bedelia. Bonnie Bedelia somewhere been like, I never made that money. Bonnie Bedelia only wished for Emily Blunt money. Oh man, what a pull. Okay, for the final question, go with me here. We're gonna play just play along. Let's say this movie does make
300 mil.
over 300 mil, and it spawns sequels are greenlit. Is Ryan Gosling him? Is he the biggest current actor on the planet? Is he the most bankable movie star on the planet?
Please let Cynical Cody go first.
Let Cynical Cody, we cede you the floor.
Or a contrarian Cody. I do both. So for 2 months, that is the time period that he will get to enjoy being him and or even the most popular Ryan from Canada. Because Reynolds, is coming out later this month, and it might not be as big of a hit as this.
With John Krasinski, Emily Blunt's husband.
Yep. And
Interesting.
Steve Carell, and a bunch of other people. And Emily Blunt voices a
Is
character in it.
Okay, yeah.
But Deadpool and Wolverine together, first Marvel big project with the Fox characters, and the first Deadpool that gets Disney money behind it and can actually have Disney level cameos. It's going to make $1 billion. Whether it's good or not, it's going to make $1 billion.
Okay. That's confident because the rated R part, I'm curious to see. I think it can make a bill for sure, but I'm curious to see the rated R part working along with it because this isn't rated R like Oppenheimer. This is a different kind of rated R.
Well, Deadpool made upper echelons without Disney's push,
But didn't make $1 billion.
Without even getting the cameos that it's going to bring in. And there's going to be diehard Marvel fans that will watch it at least once because this is supposed to be how we get the next stage of the universe happening and get all the X-Men and the mutants. And
I think you could be right. But they have to deliver. If they don't deliver, then it won't make a bill because it needs repeat viewing.
I do think that Reynolds, I don't want him in everything, but I think that we are people of the moment and Gosling will take a back seat. He had a good run with Barbie and Fall Guy. And I think that once Reynolds releases Deadpool 3, we're going to forget about the other Ryan.
Jackson, what's your thought?
I'm going to push back on capitalist Cody. That really nothing you said had anything to do with Ryan Reynolds himself.
You tell him, comrade.
Everything was Disney's money, all the other characters, all the, the storyline and everything like that. It wasn't anything really Ryan-centric. And my worry, and it's something you touched on it right at the end of, I don't know how much a lot of Ryan Reynolds' other stuff worked in between Deadpool 2 and now. So there's a risk of it being like he had to come back to this franchise more so than this is his, star-making vehicle.
Deadpool, literally one of the creators of Deadpool and comic book writers literally based his version of Deadpool off Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is that guy. He is him. And the first Deadpool made $783 million.
That's a lot.
So that's without Disney, like anything.
Okay.
I'm just saying, this is the time in the season. Marvel fans will then ask, are we back? And is the comic book movies back? And I will say, hold your horses, because it's a Deadpool movie.
It's an interesting conversation, to say the least, because I think I tend to agree with you, Cody. Currently, right now, especially if this movie does well, The Fall Guy, we're living in a Ryan Gosling world. But when that comes out, and I think Jackson's a little right, too, because Ryan Reynolds is a lot more prolific as far as the projects. Like, it seems like he's got something come out on Netflix every few months, like a full movie. And some of those are good.
Secret Netflix movies.
Yeah, some of them are good. They're enjoyable in a way, but they're not all like, I feel like the consistency of Ryan Gosling is a little bit higher than Ryan Reynolds right now. But I think at the end of the day, you could both be right in that it's definitely a Ryan world. Gosling and Reynolds, I think they're the stars of the moment in the foreseeable future.
Gosling did say something that was a little like Jackson said, it was limiting, that he's not going to make any psychological dark movies because he's a family man, and right now he doesn't want to bring any negativity back into his own household, and so he's going to stay in this vein, which is good, but it could also lead to typecast.
As a pastor, can I just say how much I appreciate that?
Yes,
that
as
he said that.
A mental health provider, I will also echo that's great.
He's not going to do any horror movies. He said he's not going to do things like that, at least right now.
Yeah.
He was very honest about it. I thought that was very cool.
And also it highlights that he knows the psychological wear and tear that some of these roles can have on a person.
Yeah.
Especially if you kind of get into the character. Don't have to look too far, and you can see many examples throughout Hollywood, including The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And so please be careful with how into things you get and how obsessed you get and how dark you get.
Jackson, how many GMC trucks with lift kits out of 10 are you giving this movie?
I'm going to give it 9.
9 out of 10. Cody?
As a summer popcorn flick, it also gets a 9 out of 10. But if we're just going on like the regular movie scale, it's like a 7.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah, it was for me 8.5, 8.5, 9. It was very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. Walked out of the theater thinking, man, I'm glad I spent that money. That was good. Loved it. Tell us what you thought of The Fall Guy. That is our review wrapped up here now. You can tell us on the social media posts for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, make sure and subscribe, follow, review everywhere you can. It helps us out in the algorithms to get more people. And that's what we want. We want more people to discover the pod and bring into community, because that's what we value. Community. We think that the world is a place that is trying to divide, based on the things we disagree with. Here at Pop Culture Pastor, we believe that God created us for connection. And so we are trying to gather based on the things we have in common, not what we don't have in common. And which, by the way, we believe there's just far more of the things we have in common.
Indeed.
Like a love of pop culture. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Pop Culture Pastor. Let's go!